Thank you for listening to this podcast from TRE, Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain and around the world. For more information, please visit tre.radio.
Discuss, challenge, inform, comment, Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe.
Giles Brown.
Live comment and discussion with studio guests. Viewpoint.
It is Tuesday, the 15th of October. You're listening to Viewpoint, Talk Radio Europe's current affairs programme, with a panel of invited guests where we discuss the issues of the day with you for the next 2 hours. If you wish to be involved with Viewpoint, then these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
And going to be joined in the studio by Andres Gallardo, and also hopefully, we will be getting joined, by the Woke Master General himself. Rex Leyland is in Spain, so we're expecting him any moment now. I hope you are having a good Tuesday. It is a little bit challenging out there. A lot of overnight rain and chaos and confusion, which is pretty much the normal state of affairs here in Andalusia this morning. But let's have a look at the front pages of the papers. Starting from the top, several of the papers several papers seize on the latest hint by Rachel Reeves that employers' national insurance contributions could go up in the budget. The Guardian calls her refusal to rule out the move as the strongest hint yet that an increase is planned. The Financial Times says at Monday's investment summit, the Chancellor insisted business leaders understood the need to put the UK on a stable footing. It says that while increasing business taxes would help the public finances, it would also hit the bottom line for companies. The Eye says some economists fear the measure could end up hitting workers too if employees hire fewer staff or reduce pay rises. The Daily Mail says that Reeves has broken Labour's manifesto pledge not to put up national insurance. A study which found the new treatment regime could cut deaths of cervical cancer by 40% is highlighted in the Times. It says researchers at University College London found that simply by changing the order in which women were giving existing drugs, survival rates could be transformed. Doctors involved tell The Guardian it's the most significant breakthrough in treatment since the end of the last century. The front page of the Daily Mirror reveals the BBC halted production of the Christmas special of Mrs. Brown's Boys after a star of the show made what the paper called a racist joke. Brendan O'Carroll, who created and plays Agnes Brown, has apologised in a statement saying he made a clumsy joke which backfired. The paper says cast and crew members were shocked and the production was stopped whilst an investigation was carried out. The Times offers the latest twist in the row about Taylor Swift's police escort when she performed in London. After reports that the Attorney General was pressed to intervene, the paper says Scotland Yard asked him for advice because of its concern that officers could be liable if bystanders were injured by the escort. The Sun reports that Swift's mother, Andrea, spoke directly about the arrangements with Sue Gray, who was Sir Keir Starmer's chief of staff at the time. Government ministers and the Mayor of London have all denied pressuring the Met about security for the singer, and says the decision was taken by the police, led by the police. And an unlikely tale of skullduggery has emerged from the World Conkers Championship. The Daily Telegraph reveals that the winner of the men's event in Northamptonshire at the weekend was found to have a steel conker in his pocket. And rivals are feeling hard done by David Jenkins, 82, who was also the top judge for the event, said he only had it done with him for humour value and denied using it in the competition. But the loser of the men's final has lodged a complaint, and organisers say they're investigating. He said his conker disintegrated in one hit. And that just doesn't happen. Those headlines again then from the top From the top, Financial Times, Reeves signals rise in business taxes as Starmer courts global investors. The new NI hike warning for UK businesses from Reeves. Meanwhile, the Times, Reeves tells businesses to prepare for higher taxes. The Guardian, Reeves hints at budget increase in employer national insurance. Meanwhile, the Metro, alleged confession from Pakistan. This is the trial of Ufan Sharif, father of 10-year-old Sarah Sharif, who is said to have admitted killing her at their Surrey home. Alleged confession from Pakistan. I beat Sarah up too much. The Mail leads on that story as well. I legally punished her and she died. That's the Daily Express. The Daily Mail leads on Sarah. Well, I won't read the list. It's horrendous. But hush courtroom. Here's evidence after death of Surrey girl. Meanwhile, the Telegraph, weight loss jabs will get Britain working. The Mirror, Mrs. Brown's racist joke storm. The Sun. The Sun leads on claims by former Manchester City star Benjamin Mendy that his teammates enjoyed and participated in his sex parties. Anyway, Mendy, City stars came to my sex parties. And finally, and who can blame them? The Daily Star, because the Daily Star says 1 in 3 of us sneak down the garden to avoid partner for up to 4 hours at a time, or to avoid reading the newspapers. This week, I have mostly been hiding in the shed, and those, for better, worse, or metal conkers, are your headlines on this Tuesday, the 15th of October.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Yes, indeed. So, well, I mean, I'm joined by but if you were those of us to get involved with the show today, and we are joined in the studio by first Andres Gallardo. Good morning to you, Andres.
Good morning to you, Giles. We have royalty today.
We do indeed. We are honoured, nay, blessed. Nay. Get the rose petals out of the holy water. In fact, what I will do, hang on a second, before we start that, I've just had a thought, which is where, just before we start, for we are joined by royalty. And, we don't normally do that on Viewpoint, but ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, be afraid, because the woke Master General is in the building. Rex Leyland, good morning to you.
Good morning, Giles. Good morning, Spain.
Yes, indeed, and not from a house, but nice to see you bought Riverboy weather with you.
I feel an absolute terrible person to have brought in my suitcase this God-given water to the coast.
Indeed.
You need it.
Indeed.
And I was panicking because I thought I'd only get one shower in a week.
Well, you see
but I've been okay. I got drenched yesterday.
There's a Douglas Adams story who the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where this truck driver gets followed around by rain clouds everywhere. He doesn't realise, but he's an ancient Norse rain god. I think, Rex, actually...
I hope not. No. I really hope not.
Good to have you with us anyway, live.
Lovely to be back, Giles. Right. Live with you in the studio.
You're looking very well, Rex.
Thank you. Well, I have been around the block a little bit this year.
Right then, 952 78 4000 is the phone number. We'll brush up. We might come to conkers a little bit later on. I think Andres will explain the.
No, I know all about conkers.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, right, okay.
I never understood it. I know what's going on. It's around this time of year when you play with those things.
You see, the Spanish eat them. You see, but the British
we eat them, and they're very nice.
Yes, they are.
And it's a run up to Christmas. You know, when you get the smell of the
chestnut.
The chestnut, yes.
Which the harvest time is always roundabout now, and the boys go looking for string, and they drill a little hole in the concrete.
I know how conker works. I was a prep school boy as well. Remember that? So therefore,
absolutely,
the thought of me in short trousers. Right then, let's get on to some right. So we're going to be looking at a variety of subjects. We're having a quick rundown of what's happened. Or a look at what's Spain's corruption case. The cases of corruption in Spain. seem to be making an awful lot of papers. We'll be looking at that, and obviously the Woke Master General will bring us his thoughts on what's been happening in the UK, Conservative Party, etc., etc. We may as well touch on and also, of course, this whole thing with Labour as well. Both parties seem to be in a bit of a muddle, to put it mildly. Sue Gray leaving, and of course Taylor Swift's police escort, believe it or not. So, okay, thank you very much. Yes, conkers are horse chestnuts as opposed to edible chestnuts. So there we go. I think we'll draw a line on that one. I think we've got our conker thing has been well and truly.
Conkers.
You can't well and truly. I don't know. I think I might have done both back at prep school. So we've conquered that subject here all week. Right then, let's have a Rexy rant. Right, Rex, what's been so you're like, because normally you are live, shaking your head. I can hear you down the phone shaking your head. It's been, to put it mildly, it's been an interesting couple of weeks for both the Conservatives and also for Labour, and accusations of sleaze and favours that this was supposed to be a new broom in government.
Well, my take on it is that it appears that this Labour government, like the previous Conservative government, and I name Boris particularly, who was given the most enormous mandate by the country, basically blew it rather quickly. And the comparison now is that Starmer and his gang have emulated Boris, given a massive mandate, and have blown it already. I mean, the stupidity, the arrogance, the unbelievable bashing around corridors of power and abusing everything that's put in front of them. I think the most disturbing fact that has come out, which of course is very typical with a socialist government, is that the majority of them have never been in business or have never done, should we say, work for themselves. They've never had any self-employment. They've never had the responsibility of running their own business. And now they're going to run our country, or they're going to attempt to run the country. And I'm absolutely fearful what is in store for the United Kingdom. Do you remember I said once on your show, is the United Kingdom still united, and is Great Britain still great? Well, I'm afraid, everybody, things are about to change for the worse. I'm so sorry.
Right, okay.
With the added thing is that the Labour Party has had so many years to prepare for government, and now they've got a stomping majority. Obviously, during all these years, they haven't done any groundwork to prepare to sort of take over and start, as they say, running. What is it when you touch the ground and run?
Touch the ground running?
Yeah,
hit the ground running.
Hit the ground running. That was the expression. But yeah, I mean, there's no excuse for the lack of preparation to start governing, and the blunders go from one to the next.
That's, of course, the other thing is that their so-called advisors, in inverted commas, keep changing, and there's no continuity even after 100 days. There is no continuity in government. And Sue Gray gently leaving by the back door, I think it really makes a massive statement of total disorganisation.
One might argue that they're having to, perhaps they weren't aware of this huge hole in the public finances that was there when they came in. I mean, they were talking about, what is it, 14?
I knew, so they should have known.
Exactly.
Well, you didn't know before it came out in the press, though, did you? I mean, I think one of the things we're looking at here, though, is they had said the adults were now taking over. This is because, after the, and somebody's come in saying after 14 years of that shot storm, not the actual words, but they're saying that, the adults are taking over. We're not being run by lettuces or technocrats or the whole thing. We are a steady hand on the tiller. But the thing is that Labour deciding to the winter fuel, which doesn't matter if it's the necessary thing. It's an emotional stick that the right wing press can beat them over with. And now this NI thing on employers, and now Rex, as obviously somebody who has run successful businesses and employed staff, this is going to have perhaps a serious effect.
It just adds another layer of debt to your business.
Yeah.
And the other thing about Labour is that they said so much in their manifesto, or rather they were bleating loudly prior to getting in about everything, and then they said, we'll never do this, we'll never do that, and what have they done? They've done the opposite. So how can you have faith in a government that keeps changing its mind?
You're telling me? In Spain, the Prime Minister changes his mind every 5 minutes, gives explanations one day and the next day the opposite. So it seems to me that it's a constant on governments these days, that they can't stick to a plan and they cannot stick to an idea and follow it through to see the end of it. There's the need to change one day to the other, depending on what the paper said and the public opinion feels. So there is not a steady hand in government. It's just a pan that goes wherever they can to survive those 24 hours.
Looking at some of the bits and pieces coming in, Sunak worked for GS and was utterly useless there, Rex. More disorganised than 3 prime ministers in 50 days. The Tories were going to, remove the WFA. Next year he'll be saying they're all the same. This one's coming. I'm not sure that's this is our time to eat. No, I think that must be something to do with Dave. It's just come in. So what's the situation at the moment? Just quickly, what is the situation at the moment with Sanchez and the Spanish corruption thing?
Well, in the last couple of weeks, the corruption allegations, obviously, it all has to be proven in court and everything else, but they've been growing and growing. It's a seed planted with the masks during the time of COVID, and all the commissions paid here and there, and they're getting closer and closer to Pedro Sanchez. One of the main seems to be culprit on all of this was his number 2 in the party and his most trusted minister, that through his one of his advisors, that's what I laughed earlier when we were talking about advisors, he was the mastermind of a corruption cartel where they were taking money from PPE and masks and everything else. All that's been coming out. But this week we had the special branch of the Guardia Civil releasing all the information that they've got about the minister himself. And he's all quite seedy as well. I mean, he was paying for an apartment for a young lover that he had a relationship with, and that was all paid from money from
public purse.
The public purse from businessmen who were taking advantage of contracts through the administration and so on. So in real terms, it's corruption money. They're being paid for that. She was getting jobs in different parts of the administration, so she would have an income. They were paying. Then he had expenses of 10,000 euros a month that they were not able to sort of justify as a matter of doing his job and everything else. So all of this is growing and growing and growing, and he's getting closer and closer to the Prime Minister.
Just as well, there wasn't a Taylor Swift concert here in Spain, because that would have caused
I was laughing when I saw the Starmer thing and thinking, well, this is nothing. I mean, that's peanuts compared to what's happening here, because here it took millions and millions, you know.
But it's always been the way. This is enchufe, isn't it? This is enchufe trophy in the highest and in the worst possible way.
Well,
they like credit cards.
The enchufismo in this country.
Enchufismo.
Enchufismo.
It's all in the wheels,
Come
by the
on,
way,
look
Rex.
for it, guys. It is incredible how this is. The most annoying thing about all this, and this is all coming out every day in the papers. The evidence is there. Of course, that will have to be proven in court, and when it gets to court, and everything else. So allegedly, all of this is happening. But what annoys me the most is the opposition party, Conservative Party. They've got an empty goal, and they kick the ball out. Unbelievable. I mean, they come out saying they're going to go to court and take the whole party to court and everything, when they've got a great opportunity to ostracize the government and the Socialist Party and run away with it. But they're not doing it. Unbelievable. The really terrible opposition they're doing is what annoys me the most, because this is a great opportunity to organise a motion of no confidence and get rid of Sanchez and all this government, which incidentally, and since last time I was here, nothing has changed in terms of being able to just legislate anything, because they're in the hands of fringe parties who control what goes through Parliament or not.
Oh,
there you have. That's a beautiful picture of
exactly. Somebody's just saying thanks for that. Sam's coming in from Ibiza saying thanks for that. I feel much better already. Thank you for that. Yes, indeed.
I don't follow Spanish politics very much, but to me, what you're saying, it's a bit smelly, like Netanyahu. The minute he steps down, he goes to prison or he goes to trial. Is it a similar situation in Spain?
Well, I mean, the minister, the top minister, he's going to be charged now by the Supreme Court. Whether he'll end up going to prison or not, I don't know, because, I mean, some other politicians have been tried and convicted and they went to prison and 5 minutes later they went out. But that should be very, very damaging. And the problem is, the perception in the street is there you go, another corruption case. Well, what would you expect from politicians? So we seem to assume that that's what happens in politics, and that we should get used to it. And instead of having a big demonstration, a big revolution in the country to say enough is enough, it happens over. I mean, we had the old Conservative Party. That's why they lost power, because of corruption charges. Now we've got a socialist government who will end up going down because of corruption charges. So how do we get out of this corruption
and then,
world?
Of course, you touched on the fact that you've got a lot of fringe parties and so on, which takes us back to that awful subject of proportional representation. Is it an effective form of government?
Well, I mean,
when you've got because no one has a complete majority. I mean, that's why Italy stagnated for so many years, and same has happened in Israel. They've got so many fringe parties. Spain is the same. However, going back to the UK perspective, we were actually a little, should we say, stimulated by proportional representation in the fact that when you look at the split of vote in the UK, had we had proportional representation, probably reform would have got in.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So, and that would have been a good way to run the country? First past the post, is that the fair way to run a country, or is it proportional representation? And it's funny that most of Europe runs on proportional representation, whereas I don't know how many countries are first past the post like UK.
I don't think very many.
Maybe one of the listeners will come in on that.
Because I personally quite like the British system, where you elect your MP, and the minute they get selected, it becomes your MP, whether you have voted for him or not, or her, it becomes your MP. Absolutely. So you've got a point of contact.
Absolutely. And we contact them, even though they may not be of the party of your choice, you still
have a point of contact, so he's your MP, he's going to represent you. Where here here in Spain, we don't know who our MPs are.
That's terrible.
So I quite like the British system. You rightly said something, that if it was proportional representation, the configuration of Parliament would be different to what it is now. But on the other hand, I quite like the idea of having a geezer who represents you in Parliament.
A geezer?
A geezer. But the thing is, you get something done when you've got the first past votes, because they have a majority, and they can, effect all their manifesto in whichever way they want. The only problem now in the UK, as I see it, is that if this government make a mess of stuff, which they seem to have done already, we have to wait a long time to replace them. But the only way to change is a vote of confidence. And as their majority is so high, that chance will probably never come. And that means we're stuck with them.
Well, yeah, I mean, and to see what's going on at the moment with the contest for the Conservative leadership at the moment, with cleverly backfiring.
That's a separate chapter.
But surely it is a good thing that you have a period of time when a government and a parliament can develop their strategy, if they have one. But that period of 4 or 5 years, depending on the country, is the minimum term that they should serve, so we could see through what they want to do. And at the end of it, people will decide whether they've done well or not and vote them back in or not. All this changing of governments every 2 years because they can't configure the right parliament or the right government or that is just stumbling from one thing to the next, and nothing gets done.
But then there's another point to add to this. The timing of calling the elections. Sunak called the election too early, too soon, wrong time. Macron did the same. Why did they both make such a fatal mistake? Because if they'd stayed on to the end of their term, the chance on him the result would have been completely different.
Well, yeah, and they could have enjoyed. They could have enjoyed some of. I mean, somebody said the half the thing about Keir Starmer was when Sunak went. I mean, one of the first things he got to do was go to watch England play Spain in the Euro as the Prime Minister. And imagine if England had won, it would have been the feel good factor. But yeah, they lost out an awful lot. But it is that Macron, because he's gambled before, and that is his style.
Well, he was under pressure after the results of the local elections when the far right won so much to rig. And he was something saying to him, look, the public opinion have now demonstrated that this should be a change, and he gambled on that. And I have to say, his gamble hasn't come out that badly, because he's still there and he's been able to appoint a friendly government and relegate the far right outside the corridors of power as such.
And given his choice of Prime Minister, Monsieur Barnier, who did the Brexit, it's actually not a bad choice. I mean, it's a safe pair of hands for France. What I didn't realise was their national debt was so much larger than the UK's. Their black hole is much, much bigger. Just
so you know, by the way, because Viewpoint is branching out into comedy if England had won the football. Yes, thank you very much. And we've had as sharp as a marble as well. It's good to have that expression back. But I think 41 countries use first past the post.
Thank you.
Mainly Commonwealth countries, it says here.
Will you thank that listener?
I will thank that listener, and I've forgotten their name, and I'm sure to get a reply any second now from that one, because we updated our system 41. And it's got rid of all the names, so that's quite good fun. Meanwhile, looking at more bits and pieces coming in, what we're going to do is take a quick break, and then here we go. This Labour government, good morning to you, Paul. This Labour government, so that one's come back in, who declare gifts compared to previous Conservative governments who hid theirs. COVID, PPE, VIP lanes. Anyone? Expect certain media to continue their pile on for the next year or so. And regarding Taylor Swift, Yvette Cooper and Sue Gray, after the mass terror plot in Vienna, which led to the Austrian councils being Vienna concerts being cancelled. Taylor Swift increased its security for all remaining concerts, including the UK. Imagine the headlines from the same paper if Labour had refused extra security and she cancelled her shows in the UK. People seem to forget that there had been this real and present threat, that this horrendous terror plot had been discovered. So this is one of the reasons. It wasn't just so they could get tickets to go and see Taylor Swift. It's just that the spin they're putting on it. 952 78 4000 is the phone number. studio@tre.radio is the email, the Facebook page. It's Talk Radio Proficient. You can WhatsApp me on +34 645 9967 95. Take a short break and then back with more Viewpoints.
This is TRE. Viewpoint with Giles Brown.
Always live, always lively. It's to the lines we go. Morning, caller. You're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Yeah, hi, Giles. It's John in Meehouse.
Morning, John.
That Taylor Swift thing, I think the problem is that she somehow or other finished up with like a motorcycle escort situation, not just increased security, which obviously would have been correct, but there was no way she should have had like a motorcycle escort like up front and was closing everything off and speeding them through.
Police outriders, the whole situation, you mean?
Yeah. I mean, that was the bit that was wrong. And how that happened, I don't know, and I don't. It's not my problem, but that was the argument.
I suppose, yeah. I mean, I suppose the thing is, what you would have been better spent on is better sort of security at the venue itself, rather than having all the smoke and mirrors of blues and twos and the whole thing like that.
Well, they could have an armed special branch officer in the car with her. And that would have been increased. That would have been probably sufficient security.
Yeah, but I'm thinking obviously for the venue itself. But thank you for the call, Ilda.
Okay, Charles. Bye.
Bye. 952 78 4000 is the phone number. Joined in the studio by Andres Gallardo and Rex Leland, the Woke Finder General, and we're discussing a variety of things. No, let's which are going across a broad sweep of Europe. We mentioned the Labour Party and the problems they've been having, winter fuel, and obviously this new NI on employers, etc., and also and DP World, which was going to pull out of their you see that little smile flashed across your features, Rex. Now, DP we're going to put, what was it, 1 billion into the London Gateway project. Then they said on the Friday they were pulling out because they weren't happy. They're back on again. Yeah. I mean, that's just...
I think looking back on that particular situation, the Middle Eastern Emirati owners of P&O, I believe, and actually I feel very strongly about it, that they sacked all the British workers of P&O and replaced them with cheap foreign labour. Now, they shouldn't have got away with it, and this government allegedly are going to, or are already blocking that hole so it doesn't happen again. But if you were one of those P&O seamen who'd worked all their life for what was a great company before it disappeared into foreign
David
hands.
Sterling, wasn't it? Was it? What's the name of this? Lord
Pacific and Oriental.
Yes.
It was a great company, which then ended up doing ferries rather than big cruise ships or liners, as they used to do.
Yeah, we do liners, not cruise ships.
Liners. But basically, I do feel for those P&O workers. And what's funny now is, of course, they are rehiring again. And I think that I do support the Labour transport lady who said what she said, which I happened to see on the telly the other day. And I think that probably there's a little sycophantic behaviour of asking them to come back in with their £1 billion of investment. But the moral doesn't change. those people should never have been fired and replaced with cheap foreign labour.
Can I ask you something? Excuse my ignorance here, but you said they were sacked. The British employees were sacked, replaced with foreign cheap labour. But what's this foreign cheap labour? Are they French?
Filipinos.
Okay, so
Chinese
they're not. They haven't replaced them with a, because they operate between in the channel, basically. Yeah.
And now
so I imagine that the other side is to get the French workers, who are not any cheaper than the British workers.
Well, the French
probably more expensive.
Yeah, the French actually battened down much quicker than we did. They brought in a change in legislation earlier this year. So this would not happen again.
But Rex, surely, I mean, these companies should operate within the minimum wages, or whether France or Britain. So this cheap labour...
They got away with it, you see. They got away with it.
They got away by bringing people from outside the EU, and although they operate and pay taxes somewhere, whether it's France or... That's why I said, excuse my ignorance, they should come in within the minimum wage, the tax system, and everything.
This was an international maritime thing, wasn't it?
Yes, and that's part of the problem, that it fell outside the jurisdiction.
Yeah,
and they found a loophole. They found a way to do it. And I just thought that was underhand and unfair.
Right. Indeed. So here we go. P&O Ferry. Right. So DP have done that, but no repercussions as public still use their ferries. P&O Ferries and P&O Cruises are separate companies.
Correct.
Cruises. Carnival Corporation and PLC, those are the ones who make the mega structures, and Ferries DP World. Mark, morning, bro. You've come in with a message. We can't play audios out on this one, so thanks very much for your audio, but I can't listen to it. Not that I don't like your voice, but we can't. I don't have the technology. It's not like Ritson who plays you live. I would never do that. Meanwhile, P&O is Peninsular and Oriental, not Pacific. There you go.
There you are, Rex.
No great importance.
I do apologise.
Well, I know, but the peninsula refers to Iberia, where we are sitting right now.
One of the largest peninsulas in the world.
Well, indeed.
And I love the term when people say, "Where are you from?" I say, "From Spain," or "I'm from the Balearics," and I love to say, "We've been on the peninsula."
Been on the peninsula.
Oh, that's very satisfactory.
because we call it the Napoleonic campaigns of Wellington and Spain. We call it the peninsula, yes. and the Spanish call it the War of Napoleonic War with Spain. War of Spanish, isn't the what was the Spanish name for the war against Napoleon? The Goya, the famous Goya picture of executions in Granada. What is the War of Spanish?
That's Guerras Napoleónicas, I guess. Yeah, so Napoleonic wars. Yes.
Yeah. Anyway,
when we were invaded, and then we had to get them out.
Okay. Get them out, exactly.
Yeah.
Right then, apparently I've covered what Mark was going to say anyway, so okay, well there we go.
Well, the famous, that's the Napoleon's brother, who was the famous Pepe Botella, Joseph the Bottle.
Right, yes.
Because apparently he was always drunk.
Joseph the Bottle.
Pepe Botella. Yeah, he was the ruler for a short while in Spain, yeah, Pepe Botella. There you are.
If we're ever looking for a change of name. Yes.
I was chatting with some people the other day, and it came up in conversation. I don't know whether this is true or not. That around the area of Cadiz or Cape Trafalgar, whatever, that the British left a mark, and English is often used in the Spanish language. Is that correct? There's been a sort of a bit of an amalgam of local dialect, like in Menorca, where I was.
One of your favourite places.
Wonderful place.
I was seeing an article the other day saying it's the Hawaii of Europe.
It's sensational, Menorca. We had a wonderful trip there a few months ago, but their history is fascinating, and how the language has come about, that it's a mélange, a mixture of French, English, Catalan, ordinary Spanish, and they're using English words in Spanish.
Have you been to
Menorca was British for a while.
105 years.
Under the Treaty of Utrecht, which gave Menorca and Gibraltar
that's right.
to the British. The treaty allowed to Spain to recover Menorca later on, where the treaty didn't allow Gibraltar to return to Spain. So that's why Gibraltar is still British. I would have done it the other way around if I were the British, but there you go.
As we're talking about Gibraltar, I read that there's still no agreement coming up. What's the date? On the 10th of November, is it, when Schengen all kicks in? What's going to happen? What's going to happen to all the workers in La Linea? What's going to happen generally in that area if there's no agreement?
I think a deal will be done at the last minute like they normally do.
People were saying that about Brexit and Boris, remember?
But everyone in Gibraltar and on the Spanish side in La Linea, they are hoping that they will get an agreement before the deadline. And they tell us, these governments that we should trust blindly, that they are working towards getting a deal done. Let's hope that's the case, because that will affect a lot of people in a negative way if a deal is not reached.
The joke going around is this governor giving away the Chagos Islands, and now Gibraltar's going to be the next to be handed to the Spanish.
That was the Mail doing the whole thing and saying the Falklands. Yeah, indeed. Now, listen, because Fabian Picardo actually mentioned this yesterday about Gibraltar. He said the ball is in Spain's court. He's urged Pedro Sanchez, who you may remember is the Spanish president, and the Spanish foreign minister, José Manuel Álvarez, to be the generation of politicians that breaks the mold of confrontation and looks to the future without making the unjust mistakes of the past. So that's what he's been saying. I suppose with the socialist Spanish Prime Minister it's a little easy, because the Partido Popular did tend to like to close the border, didn't they? They were quite confrontational with Peñón, isn't it? Is the Spanish
Peñón is the rock as such. It is true that the Conservatives have more a confrontational approach towards Gibraltar, and the Socialists are perhaps more open to negotiate and to deal. But let's see what the final deal is, because you can, if you can be open to negotiate, but you don't want to be taken for a ride when you negotiate. So you have to hold your stand, even in a negotiation, a good faith negotiation. You still have to hold your stand.
Last week we had and I saw this on social media. The Spanish authorities, the customs, decided to stamp everybody's passport going in and out, and the queues were biblical. So, I mean, that was very. Picardo said it was an unpleasant appetizer for what would be a non-agreement. But Alvarez and Lamy, I think, have met or are meeting this week. So let's see. Alvarez said, a new meeting with my British colleague David Lamy. We want the best relations between EU and the United Kingdom. I've conveyed to him the importance of reaching a generous and balanced agreement that Spain has offered in relation to Gibraltar.
And the Spanish want to put their police on the Gibraltar side.
I think it's the airport as well. That's the other thing. And
of course, the airport, remember, is owned by the Ministry of Defence. It's not. It is totally controlled by the Ministry of Defence, and it is, and has been, and always will be, a very strategic airport for any, God forbid, further
escalation in it, right?
Yeah. The thing is that we were told that the negotiations were well advanced with the old government, the Conservative government, but that came to a halt because of the election in the UK, and then a new government was formed, so they had to retake the whole thing. Hence the delay. That's what we've been told through the media, that's what's happened. Whether a shift in the positions of either side has changed during that time, we don't know, and we'll soon see the results.
I remember, believe it or not, when Franco shut the border and the gates were firmly closed, and I remember being here and going to the gates and shaking the gates. Can I get
Why
in?
were you shaking the gates, right?
Because I was upset.
Were you?
Yes. I was
side were you afraid to be shut?
No, but it
what
was,
side of the border were you in?
It was on the peninsula side.
You're on the peninsula side.
But I remember the water tankers bringing water from England down to Gibraltar. Do you remember that? Because they had no water. And the water had to be shipped to the territory. That's a good term. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember that one.
You're young.
I was here when they opened the border, and I remember these scenes when they actually finally cut the gates open, the whole thing. But presumably you had to get to Gibraltar, you had to go Algeciras to Tangier, and then Tangier to Gibraltar. Yeah. Anyway, going to take a short break, and then we're going to be back with more Viewpoint.
Talk Radio Europe.
Your voice in Spain. Viewpoint with
Giles Brown.
And then welcome. Sorry, we're not going to. Yeah, sorry. That was just. We were just running some things by then about appropriate or inappropriate language, and both Andreas and I went, no. Right. 952's good to have you, Winners Rex. If you want to get involved, woke finder general, indeed. So we're not woke. We're just on our third coffee. If you want to get involved with this morning's show, these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Some very strange messages coming in. I presume they've been delayed from Dave's, but I'm not going to mention half of it. But apparently the answer was lying eyes, if you want to know what the missing lyric was. Now then, 952784000 into the last 9 minutes, the first half of the show. We were talking about borders and closed borders and whatever else. And there was an interesting news coming out over the weekend as well about the EU. Poland has decided has closed its borders for Hungary, of course, closed its borders from the very start. Poland is now led by Donald Tusk. Donald Tusk, of course, previously was leading the EU. Poland has said it's shutting its borders because of the number of Syrian/that area refugees who have been in Belarus, which borders Poland, and they're saying that Putin is, as a part of the plan to destabilise the West, is pushing these refugees into Poland. So Poland said no more. Germany now made an announcement. They want to put tighter controls on borders. Is this, you think, the whole EU project, the Schengen thing of open movement, hitting the wall, Rex?
Well, I'll just quickly go back to Putin there, because we've had this discussion on your show before about Putin destabilising Africa. With the what was his name, the army, the mercenary army that Wagner Group, who were going into various countries in Africa at the behest of the leader, who was being given a big backhander, and started to really muck up the local scene so that people would be driven away, come to Europe and help in the destabilization of Europe. That was one of Putin's long-term plans, and using Africans, which has been the case, because we've had a lot. Forget Middle East, forget Afghanistan, and you can name quite a few countries.
Syria.
But Africa has also got a lot of refugees coming our way. The latest in the UK, of course, are the Vietnamese. They're pouring in, and people are saying, why are the Vietnamese coming? Because their economy is doing very well. The country's quite stable. And yet they're coming to the UK in huge numbers. I know we've got nail bars and stuff like that, all owned and run by Vietnamese, big business. Like the Albanians run the barbershops in the UK. But
there's another reason
angle,
for that.
You see, if you look at all of this immigration stuff, has Poland got it right? Has Hungary got it right? Is Germany going to get it right?
Well, Germany is doing something about the asylum law. They're clamping down on the asylum law thing. They're not going to take any, or is it? They're not going to take any more asylum seekers or people claiming asylum because it's too broad. They're saying.
Let me just put some context on all this, because it sounds that they're closing the borders.
It's a quagmire.
They're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs.
The EU treaty is all about freedom of movement. So if you're an EU citizen and want to go to Poland, you will have no problem entering Poland or being or getting a job in Poland if you want to, or in Germany or whatever it is. What is happening is that yes, the EU members, they still have freedom of movement within Europe, but there are people from outside the EU taking advantage of the open borders, because if you think that if you go to La Junquera, for instance, with France, there is a post there, but it's empty, and you enter France without hindrance. That may change, thinking, okay, not only EU members are using that facility of moving around, but people who are here illegally maybe using. So they are proposing some border controls to avoid having people from outside the EU entering the country, which they've got every right to do so. And I think it would be a good way of controlling people who are in the EU moving around the Schengen area freely. I'm not against that, but that doesn't mean that we are all going to be affected by it, because the EU treaty will allow us the freedom of movement.
Can I just stop everything here, because Stephen Ritson has just come up with a blinding comment here, because he's obviously listening in. Good morning to you. Stephen says, Rex just said that Albanians ran all the barber shops. I had no idea they were accomplished harmonic singers.
Very good, Stephen. Very good.
Chapeau.
Yeah.
Right there. What Tusk has been saying, I'm just looking at these things now, he said that it's a hybrid war. The right to asylum is being used exactly against the essence of the right to asylum. And they claim that they have seen Belarusian governments actively aiding refugees cross the border. The Council of Europe's Commissioner for Human Rights, Michael Flaherty, warned of the challenges posed by the instrumentalization of migration and the destabilizing actions of the Belarusian authorities on the Poland-Belarusian border. But Poland's policy of returning migrants without assessing their potential claims does not allow for full respect of the international human rights standards. Now, this is interesting when people, they're setting their own. If they want to set their own borders, they're threatening that and saying we on. If you see more European nations deciding they want to do this threatens to hold out the European Court of Human Rights.
But this is the whole thing now.
Yeah. But the thing is that they're doing it.
The nub is the European Court.
The thing is they're doing it. Look at Italy, for instance. Meloni has been hailed as a leader who has reduced the illegal immigration 64% and so on. Let's look at what she's done, actually. She's ploughed a lot of money to get... I mean, they're opening a new centre in Albania just this week, and it's all paid by the Italian taxpayer, where they are sending all the illegal immigrants to detention centres in Albania. The Albanian government are quite happy to take the money and to keep them there. But when it comes to human rights, I'm going to do the inverted commas here, but you can't see it because we're on the radio. When it comes to the human rights, those question marks over that. But everywhere in Europe, including Keir Starmer, who went to Italy on a visit and congratulated Meloni for bringing the immigration down. Yes, she has done it, but she has done it at the expense of the taxpayer in Italy, at the expense of sending these illegal immigrants to detention centres elsewhere. So
Albania is the new Rwanda.
Albania, for the Italians, is the new Rwanda.
Come back, Kigali, all is forgiven. But I think the nub here is the European Court of Human Rights. And I think, the UK are, I think, going to leave the Court of Human Rights. Well, that seems to be the intention.
Right.
Is the court being, do you think, obstructive or constructive in assisting members of the Europe, not just the EU, Europe, in I'm not going to say the stopping of immigration, but perhaps sorting it out into a more semblance of order? And I just said in the break, and I won't say it in the same way, but why can't we stop the boats? Why can't we do that? Why can't we stop people getting in an inflatable and coming across the channel? What's gone wrong with when you go look back at the war and all of that? we did stop.
Don't say it, Rex.
Don't mention the war.
Rex.
No.
Don't mention the war. Right then, we're coming up to...
Why can't we stop the boats?
Because we're not allowed to depth charge them, Rex. All right, now then.
Let me just come back to that one after this break or whatever.
Well, we're not going for a break because we're coming up to the end of the... Luckily, times when Jarrett is bringing up before Rex decides to reignite Coastal Command and send bleeding Lancasters down the channel and free Guernsey.
What's the game we used to play?
Battleships.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We can have a game of battleships in the meantime. We're going to go to the international and the national news. We're going to go outside and read Rex, the European Convention of Human Rights. It's good to have you in the studio, my friend. And then we'll go back for the second half of this morning's Viewpoint. If you want to get involved with the show this morning, then these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
We're going to be back with a little bit of... we're going to take a short break now, international and national news, and then back with Viewpoint.
You're listening to Talk Radio Europe.
Discuss, challenge, inform, comment, Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe.
Giles Brown.
Live comment and discussion with studio guests. Viewpoint.
Welcome back, second half of Viewpoint with me, Giles Brown. Just to give you your newspaper, your headlines, the international news is back up and running. By the way, that will be live between the segue between this morning's Viewpoint and between Stephen Ritson with the second Europe Today of the week. So national news is an international news will be restored. But just to give you quickly your news headlines in association with our colleagues at IRN Radio News. So your headlines as follows. Health Secretary says that widening waistbands are placing a burden on the NHS and suggested people with obesity are given weight loss jabs. West Streeting says this would ease the pressure on the health service and boost productivity. The Children's Commissioner says the special education needs system needs a massive overhaul. It's thought 400,000 children in England wait years for a diagnosis and specialist help for conditions like autism and ADHD. 6 of the 20 most influential accounts posting misinformation on social media about this summer's riot were based in the UK. The increased tensions are being blamed on a global network of right-wing content makers. I think the thing should be on that is that 14 of the most influential accounts were outside the UK on that one. And Sean Diddy Coombs has been accused of sexual assault by 6 more people, including a 16-year-old boy at the Times. The wave of new lawsuits came across as the 54-year-old is being accused of raping women, sexually assaulting men and molesting the boy, which he denies. Brendan O'Carroll has apologised over a clumsy joke where a racial term was implied. The BBC had to pause rehearsals for Mrs. Brown's Boy's Christmas special to investigate the incident. You know you're old when your goddaughter refers to Sean Diddy Coombs as, have you heard the news about Diddy? And I was like, who's Diddy? And it was like, I know you're shaking your head, Rex. But anyway, those are your news headlines. If you wish to get involved with the show, then these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
That's right, live and direct from the studios of TRE Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain, Giles Brown, joined by Andres Gallardo and also by Rex Lennon. Let's have a look at the Let's have a look at the some of the WhatsApps coming in over the news break, and they run as follows. Looking at okay, so this one in. Okay, here we go. Great Britain needs to open up a legal immigration route because at the moment anyone who wants to ask for asylum has no other choice but to cross the channel. French officials have already suggested that British immigration officials process asylum requests in northern France from migrants camped out around the major ports on France's coast. GB, that's Great Britain, not me personally, haven't done this to date, as the boats make better political headlines. Meanwhile, you are conflating, Giles, two separate but related issues. Poland and Hungary have closed external Schengen borders. Germany has partly closed spot checks only by its internal Schengen borders. And by the way, it's not a court; it's a convention. So that's what that one is saying. Meanwhile. Okay. Polish issue isn't about, excuse me, that was just a sigh because I'm having to work for a change. The Polish issue is not about freedom of movement. It's about suspending asylum claims. Nail bars, prostitution, etc. Okay. Albanian barbers are simply fronts for tax evasion and money laundering. Okay. Stop the boats. Under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, a country has the right to act in its waters when faced with an inbound vessels carrying migrants, which are intending to commit a contravention of the coastal state's immigration laws. But any action must also take into account humanitarian considerations. Because it was Katie, is it Hopkins? Hang on a second. Sorry?
Wishy-washy.
Well, we're not getting to Katie Hopkins territory here. For example, the need to protect the rights of asylum seekers, which are protected by the European Convention on Human Rights, which is why moon-faced creeps like Robert Jenrick want to be like Russia and Belarus and remove the ECHR. Here's an idea. I suppose that Jenrick leaves the ECHR and the rest of us will decide which rights he should enjoy. So that's that. Now, I've just found some new theme music for Rex, so here we go. And if you don't know, come on, what is it, Rex?
The Dam Busters.
Indeed. So, because after your thoughts about the small boats and wanting to reignite Coastal Command...
Absolutely, but what about 633 Squadron?
Okay, well...
No,
that would have been fun. Anyway, mosquitoes.
Thank you, Giles.
It's no problem at all. Right then.
Eric Coates wrote that, I think.
Did he?
Yep. I believe.
Right.
I recall.
You recall?
Yeah.
So where were we, panel? We were discussing the issues. We were talking about obviously migration. We're talking about let's have a quick segue, shall we, to what's happening with the Conservative Party, because it's been very interesting. Andres, are you up to speed?
Yeah, I am mostly up to speed with it.
I mean, it seems to be this most ridiculous own goal. I mean, the situation with Cleverly, who was seen as the maybe one of the old style Conservatives, a One Nation Tory, and it looked like he was going to be a shoo-in to go up against Jenrick or Kimmy Badenoch, and then for some strange reason, when the Conservative leadership votes came in, because it goes down to the final two, Cleverly was out, and that leaves a very interesting. You've got two candidates now who are at the right of the party. Jenrick is kind of inventing himself, it seems to be, in a sort of Trumpian kind of right-wing populist way. Badenoch, of course, let off. Jenrick stays on message. Badenoch, not so much. And if you leave her alone, she'll come out with gaffes like the "I was working class because I worked at McDonald's" sort of thing. But it does worry some of the Conservative with a small c, right, who are saying, well, these two candidates the Conservative Party open to stepping towards where reform are, and, my enemy's enemy is my friend, and could you see there being a common ground before reform candidates on the left, and that's not an oxymoron, linking up with the Conservatives to sort of have this something capable of taking on Labour since the morning they've got? Andreas, you want to come in on this one?
This is happening to all the Conservative parties in Europe. They're being threatened by parties to the right. Some people like to call them far right.
Yeah, populist.
And they want to position themselves towards that end of the spectrum,
right.
Thinking that won't make them lose the more centrist kind of voters. So they're in a quandrum there, where to position themselves in terms of their ideology, whether they're going towards the far right, if you want to call it that, or they remain centrist parties, hemorrhaging votes to the right-wing parties. So that's happening. It's happening here in Spain. It's happening in France. It's already happened in Italy, and so on. So where do they have to position themselves to be able to become an alternative, a government alternative to the Labour Party in the case of the Tory party?
But correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't there an investigation underway at the moment with the Hungarian central bank, one of the major Hungarian banks, donating money to Vox's funds?
Yes, there are. The same way there was an investigation on Podemos being financed by Venezuela. That got thrown out of court. So these fringe parties, it appears, for the information that we get, is that they are being financed by countries and banks and central banks from countries who support their cause. But that goes to the left and to the right. I mean, this is not exclusively a matter of the right-wing parties.
Rex, as a you and I, both sort of old-school conservatives, I would say conservative with a small c, would you describe yourself as a one-nation Tory? I mean, we seem to have gone we've gone a long way from people like Heseltine, a long way from people like, Clark, Ken Clark, etc. Do you think it's the Conservative? Do you think... Are people looking at the Conservative Party now and wondering which direction it is heading in?
Well, first of all, I never profess my politics.
Okay, all right.
On the wireless.
We both run up and down the King's Road at various points. It's not a hotbed of socialism. Last time I looked.
Yeah, exactly. I always admitted that I was a Brexiteer for my sins, and that's a separate subject, and we know that. We've done it 1,000 times. But for mainstream politics, I'm not going to say exactly, but I haven't voted Conservative. That's all I'm going to say.
Fine.
Tom Tugendhat would have been my choice to lead the party. I think he was very grounded, military background, solid, decent. I think that you have made a very serious point that the current Conservatives are trying to curry favour with the electorate by swinging towards the right. And one has to think about the Reform Party in that the Reform Party says what we think. And it says what we think, and you listen to Farage. We. All right, we in parentheses. We think, and if you listen to Farage, he does say a lot of truth about immigration. I'm using just that one subject.
Well,
and you have to listen sometimes to what he is saying. Now, undoubtedly, these two remaining Conservative candidates, which you correctly identified, are moving towards the reform message. And I think, as most of Europe is swinging to the right, probably that's exactly what these two people are going to do.
It's a shame we don't have the webcam up and running anymore, because that would have been... we could see some of the actions that are going on there.
Rex, in terms of strategy, it would be interesting to know how many votes a Conservative Party, let's call it the Tory party, so to simplify it, are losing.
Did you know
by moving towards the right? Because they are thinking we're hemorrhaging votes on the right, so let's move to the right.
Yeah.
But does that mean they're going to hemorrhage votes to the centre? And that's where the strategists of the parties have to have a really good think and say, look, we need to position ourselves where we are attractive to those centrist people, like myself, or
I'm not attracted to. I'm not attracted
also
to
being attractive to those who may veer towards the right, and that is a strategy, a difficult strategy from all the conservative parties in Europe to put in place to make sure they become parties of government without the crutch or needing the crutch of the far right.
Yeah,
that's my position.
You're absolutely correct. It's going to be a huge balancing act, political balancing act, to try and identify what the electorate want, and we. Sadly, in the UK now, we're going to have to wait a long time for the next election, unless something terrible happens.
Unless something terrible. What do you got in mind, Rex?
Another Taylor Swift concert.
Taylor
46
Taylor Swift and Ed Sheeran together. That would be something terrible.
I never remember the Beatles being given a police escort, but actually they were actually protected by the police quite a lot. Anyway, so I think that we're going to be in for a surprise with. I mean, you're right about Badenoch, that she's not quite sort of 100% trustworthy. You don't quite know what's going to come out next.
Exactly. I don't say trustworthy, but she goes off message and she'll drop blunders. And in today's political thing, like this McDonald's thing and the maternity thing.
Kamala Harris-esque.
Kamala Harris-esque.
Yes.
Okay.
She also can't be trusted in what she, in American politics.
We've missed you, Rex.
About that.
Yeah, we're going to come on to that in a minute.
But that's another story.
Yeah.
So basically, it'll be very interesting, the outcome of this election, and we'll see what happens.
Can take a quick break and then more Viewpoint.
Talk Radio Europe.
Viewpoint with
Giles Brown.
Right then, if you want to get involved with the show, these are the numbers. Hopefully. I can't get the numbers at the hello. Am I doing? No, I've there we go. Yes, okay. Just a small issue. I'm doing things with the right hand and left hand. But here's
I can give you the numbers if you want. 952 788 4000.
I know the numbers. I just have a very nice stab that I can do. So here we go. Right. Okay, I'm leaving that well alone for the moment. Right there, 952 788 4000 is the phone number. studio@tre.radio is the email. The Facebook page is Talk Radio Europe Official. And you can WhatsApp me on +34 645 99 67 95. Here we go to some... Gary, good morning to you. Pompey Gary says, I always thought that Rex was royalty anyway. Well, he's got that.
What?
They thought you were royalty anyway.
Oh, absolutely. I just don't.
Would you take it?
I said.
Would you be the Marquis of?
I said to the King last week.
Did you?
I do hate name droppers.
You said what? You do hate name droppers. So when are you going to play that bill from 1984? Anyway, so politics in the UK. This is from Gary. So Gary says politics in the UK. Apart from asking if you're royalty, politics in the UK has become splintered, the same as a lot of other countries, and the governments will just lurch from crisis to crisis. Meanwhile. Text just come in saying, Giles, I'm finished. I'm not sure if that's him personally or the whole system. Meanwhile, this in from... okay, so Rex still thinks the war is on. Voted reform then. A disciple of Uncle Nigel, they're saying you are.
Uncle what?
Uncle Nigel Farage. Rex doesn't speak... Nigel Farage does not speak for the people. He lies consistently. I'm still waiting for the Turks to arrive in the UK. He also said, this is Nigel, not you, I think. criminals arriving in Germany can get EU passports and come over here, which was another lie. Never ask what the electorate wants. The risk, as they may tell you, neither kamikaze, bad knock, or generic, can save the Tories. Meanwhile, haven't you... Rex, haven't you us over enough by voting Brexit, then claiming an Irish passport yourself? Now you'd wish Farage on us.
I don't want a queue when I come in via Gibraltar.
Well, you shouldn't have voted for Brexit.
No, I use my Irish passport.
No. I don't want this, I don't want that, but you voted for
Brexit spray is coming out.
Oh, dear.
Let's get to have your live in the studio. If you want to get involved and wish a cheery greeting to... we're in the month of Halloween, remember, where everybody needs a bogeyman. These are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Those are the numbers. It's bad, yes, indeed. Looking, if you've anything crossing your radar, it'd be good to have you with us with today's viewpoint. Just looking at the email. Here we go. As I thought, this on studio at TRE. And good morning to Alf. There you go. Alf is emailing in rather than phoning in this morning. The only reason that the Tories are swinging to the right is because the Labour Party are swinging to the right. So it looks like there's no room left in the centre ground and left. Start again. The only reason that the Tories are swinging to the right is because the Labour Party are swinging to the right. So it looks like there's no room left in the centre ground and left-wing people are being left out. There's too many lefts in there. I don't think so. That's Alf.
Okay. Of course, this is happening. But let me just tell you, the centrist part of the parties are where the majority of the voters are. So if you look at Spain, which, the figures confirm that, the Conservative Party and the Labour or Socialist Party, they take 70% of the vote. The fringe parties, i.e. Vox, the nationalists and everything else, they share, all of them, with the communists and with everyone, 30% of the vote. So the strategy here is to move to that 70% and get as much as you can for with it to be able to form government yourself. So what happens is that now, I'm referring to Spain again, but I could use any other country as well. What happens is that Pedro Sánchez is being held by the far left parties, and the Conservative Party are being dragged back by Vox, the far right. So they're leaving that centre part a little bit often of a party who controls the majority of those voters.
And the lines have gone wild, as they often will do. Morning, caller, you're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Somebody said I hadn't rung in, but I don't know. So I thought I'd just change.
Come off the hour, come off the man.
Yes, hello, Rex. Hello, Andreas.
Hello. Good morning. Good morning.
The only reason I haven't been doing that is because no, I won't tell you. I've been busy doing some stuff.
Right.
As you know.
Very hush hush.
No, I went back to England because my mum was very ill.
Yeah. So we're sorry to hear that.
Making arrangements for funerals ain't nice. So anyway, forget all that. It always fascinates me because Rex says, I've never said on the radio. You did say you was going to vote for the Brexit Party. You did say you was going to vote for whoever it was many years ago when we were on Viewpoint together, and I don't tell anybody the way I vote. And it's like, no, you did. And we had a long conversation about it. So I don't know why people hide behind their preference. And it doesn't have to be in my case, everybody knows, permanently, ever since I've been involved in politics in one description or another. I'm a Labour Party member, I'm a PSOE member, I'm of the left. And the reason why I sent and it is a joke, because everybody says, oh, Labour are moving to the right. They're picking up the Tory coattails. They're not, and you're sort of right, Andreas. The parties have no centre ground. None of the political parties have ever had a centre ground. It's the electorate that have got a centre ground, and it's the centre ground, it's that little bit in the middle that changes its mind, which is what changes the flavour of whatever government you have in power. So when I was doing my stuff, it's quite simple. Unfortunately, at the moment, what we've got respect of Vox. These fourth parties that are coming along that are technically distorting the traditional politics, probably across the world. So you have two main parties and a third party in most countries. But now we're getting a fourth party or a fifth party, which is interfering with it a bit. Yeah, and Farage comes along and he's nicking all the Tory votes. He's not nicking Tory votes. He's praying to the intelligence of the people who say we don't like what the Tories are doing, therefore we're going to vote for something else. No different to when Gordon Brown was the Prime Minister, and people were saying, oh, we're fed up with what Labour are doing, we're going to move. They didn't say, oh, we're going to move to the right. They just said we're going to vote for a different party, and they didn't know who to go to, if you recall. It was like some went to the Tories and some went to the Lib Dems, and we ended up with a coalition government that was smaller than the Labour Party members. It's just, so politics is all about and it's about pandering to whatever you think is happening with the people in the country. And all I can say is what's knocked that for six in the UK is the last general election. Right. It's just incredible. The lowest participation, the lowest number of people voting for the party that wins the election, with the highest number of seats for, 2 centuries or something ridiculous like that. So what happened in the UK is there was a fickleness that's got, and I think you'll find it's because people believe that they're being ignored. And it's not, it's all well and good, keep saying you can't trust these people. You can't trust them. Rick said it about free. You can't trust them for this. You can't trust them for that. You can't trust. That may be a position in your minds, but at the end of the day, the people that get elected, them, make all the decisions. Every decision in your life is affected by them. So you can't keep saying, because you just denigrate politics. You can't keep saying you can't trust it. I was with my in-laws. That's all he kept saying. You can't trust any of them. They're all liars, they're all this, they're all that. That's not. They're still in charge of you. And what it leads to, let me just finish the thing. All right. What it leads to is anarchy. And if you want anarchy, then you carry on destroying the political setups in whatever country you want, and stop saying people are moving left and right. People don't move anywhere. They just change their opinion about who they're going to vote for. Anyway, yes.
Alf, that is democracy.
Well, of course it's democracy.
You change your mind.
Democratic
you can say what you like. We're not living in Russia. We're not living in North Korea. Okay. We can say what we like, and if we say we don't trust our politicians, then that's
nobody's saying you can't say it, but just understand the effect it has on large proportions of the population who agree with you and say they're all liars, they're all untrustworthy, they're all this, instead of saying whoever they are, they're in charge of your life. Yeah, you should have an input into who you have in charge of your life.
The point that I'm trying to make is the fact that we got too much negativity around politics.
Absolutely.
And it's all very well to go, oh, well, they're all the same. Is this the best that we've got? As we've seen in the States. And yet
I don't vote because they're all the same.
Exactly. And that way, then you're going to get what you deserve. And that's why people vote for Boaty McBoatface. But
Alf, would you agree that during that coalition, that was a good time politically for the United Kingdom?
No, not at all.
You didn't think it was a good time?
No, because they blamed Brown for destroying the economy that was being destroyed by the world economy that was being run by a bunch of right-wing company owners, not politicians. So there was nothing democratic about what was destroying the world's economy. That was big business that was destroying it. So no, changing the government didn't do anything for that. And I'll tell you what happened. If you want to lie, the Lib Dems said we are never going to do anything other than we are going to get rid of university fees. Really? Did they? First opportunity, they voted in favour of the Tories increasing student fees. So you go, oh, they're all liars. Yes, but they got into power on the back of saying they were going to decrease student fees, and then did the reverse. So everybody says, oh, they were a bunch of liars. And at the next election, do you remember what happened? They were wiped out. Right, so when they lie as a collective, you get these massive things. So I'm not going to say that the Tories have just gone through a thing where they've been lying. I mean, they may have done things that were inappropriate, and I may not agree with some of the issues that they've got. But they didn't stand up and outright lie, and therefore Labour comes in and there's this massive landslide victory off the back of 32% of the population, the lowest ever number. Marginal 42%.
Alf, quick question. Are you happy with Starmer and his government so far?
That's not even a correct question, because nobody's ever happy with everything that happens.
Okay,
there are things that are going on that are questionable. Yes, absolutely. I mean, have you just seen the thing that it might have even been one Daily Express or they've just produced for Parliament or for somewhere. John Craig was on last night. A 3-page dossier of all of these gift things that the Tories took in the last 4 years or last 5 years of office, and you just go, it's all a pile of nonsense. If you know MPs and if you know what they do, it's called noses in the trough, but it's not. They're not being. There is no way I've ever seen serious politicians ever been pushed to vote for something based on the fact that somebody's bought them a bleeding ticket for a football match. Ever. I will tell you that the lobbyists who give piles of money, and what were their names? The geezer who was beaten by the white suited bloke and his missus. Yeah, they took thousands of pounds in brown envelopes for putting questions. That's wrong. But under the system that they were working, they weren't doing anything wrong. It was moral indignation that got them deselected and beaten in an election. It wasn't because they were doing anything illegal. And if you went in the early days when the MPs put all their expenses in, you'd question, you go, second homes. The MP where I lived, Parliament's about 30 minutes away, 35 minutes away. She could and did apply, and she got a second home allowance.
Right. The Hamiltons are the one you're looking for.
Hamiltons, that's them. Yeah, the pair of them.
The pair of them. Right then, Alf. Right then.
Anyway, nice to listen to you, Peter, and I've finished doing my business, so I listen to the rest of the programme in silence.
That's I'm glad you
Thank you, Alf.
Thank you, Alf.
It's a pleasure.
Nice to hear from you again.
We've got him live in the studio, so there you go. Right then, if you want to get involved with the show, these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
952 78 4000. Here we go. A few bits and pieces. Coming in on the WhatsApps. Okay, less than 2/3 of the vote share is PP plus PSOE. Coalition governments are fine. Most of Europe is under coalition. As I always say, always vote and always vote for the least worst. That's inspiring, isn't it, panel? The media are to blame. There you go. I'm sorry about that. It's all my fault. Well, social media is to blame. But the electorate generally isn't very bright. Okay. Why, if you're poor, keep voting Tories, for example? Liberal Democrats don't lie about student fees. Alf, they entered a coalition with Call Me Dave and couldn't enact that policy. Rex expects instant results from 14 years of I won't read the word out, but it rhymes with rap. So therefore, those are coming in as well. I got all this laughing and smiling emojis for some strange reason, but there you go. And just seeing what else is coming in on the no, we're all good with that. Just to give you a quick heads up, people living with obesity out of work as a result could be prescribed free weight loss injections to help them get back into the office. There's a warning that kids with conditions like autism and ADHD are being failed by the special education needs system. And forensic analysis of social media used during the summer's riot suggests that only 6 of the 20 most influential accounts were based in the UK. A global web of far-right forces incited much of the violence. Any of those news headlines? Do you think of this, the obesity jab, the weight loss jab? Not that we don't need it, because we were obviously all fighting fit and, the whole thing. But they're calling it a back-to-work jab. I can see that going down well with people who didn't want to have the vaccine the first time, right? Can you imagine the action when they start saying, here's your back-to-work jab? It's another. Are you going to say United States?
No.
Okay.
No, it's another. In parenthesis, good idea from this new Labour government. I mean, take away the heating allowance and give people jabs for obesity instead.
Yeah, but surely if you're not giving them a heating allowance, they're going to need to be fat to survive the winter with all the blood and stuff like that. Surely, no.
That's nonsense. Come on, let's just say it. It's absolute nonsense.
Okay.
Diet is more to do with.
Well, you've been involved in the hospitality industry for longer than we can care to remember, Rex. I mean, you know that good foods, good produce, well presented, sells. People will pay for that, and it's just that people are a bit. We've got a policy of the great remove between what appears on your table and what's available in supermarkets. We've lost a generation or 2 generations now of people who know how to cook. And therefore, that is the problem with the not sort of get. Are we too obsessed with, get fit quick remedies?
I think in Spain, your diet in Spain is supreme compared to UK.
Not mine personally, obviously. If you see black coffee and impure thoughts, in my case.
I was in Mercadena the other day, and I have a glance around and see what people are buying, and when they.
If you see pineapples, walk away.
Yes.
Brilliant. No, there is this element.
Now, explain.
I saw a lot of people buying pineapples.
Yes. Well, there you go. It's it was this trend that went on social media, TikTok or any of these things. Says if you go to Mercadona to a certain hour and you put a pineapple upside down in your trolley, that means that you're looking too fine for love.
No.
And, so yes.
It's just as well I was walking around with my back to the wall.
There was a big trend in Spain of people between 7 and 8 going to Mercadona with a pineapple.
That's the hours, by the way, not the age.
Yeah.
So the hours. Yeah. So that was why Giles said. Hopefully you weren't buying pineapples. Otherwise,
thank you for enlightenment.
Yes,
the enlightenment. I had no idea. But on a more serious note, the diet in Spain. And Europe generally is far better than UK, and the problem with UK is the consumption of processed foods is far too high, and it's also socially related that if you're slightly better off, you can afford to buy yourself better food and cook it at home rather than. People who are less well off, they have to go round to McDonald's, or they buy a ready-made.
The message that has to be sent.
That is it. It's
the message that has to be sent from whoever sends these messages is: if it comes in a packet, don't eat it. That's a quite simple message that would be very useful for people to avoid processed food, because processed food is what triggers obesity, some kinds of cancer,
You're absolutely
blah.
You're absolutely right.
So that's the message from me to you, listeners.
Right.
If it comes in a packet, don't eat it.
Right, and to the lines we go. Morning, caller. You're live on TRE. Yes, go on.
Yes, Alf. I was just listening to the pineapples were quite specific, and this is the power of the people.
Don't tell me there's a socialist link between the pineapple.
No, well, I'll tell you what, the pineapple
and the link
wasn't
to the people.
it wasn't just putting a pineapple in your car.
Alf, remember you're happily married. Yeah,
but the pineapple has to be upside down in the shopping trolley.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's been that powerful that Mercadona has stopped selling pineapples.
Yeah.
Well, they weren't yesterday.
No,
they knew you were in town.
Got to the point it was so bad.
I think the trend
It's so bad that Mercadona stopped selling whole pineapples. Everybody was going and putting pineapples upside down.
There was two pineapples, two types of cut. Both in plastic containers.
Right. Yeah, cut pineapples, but they're not selling.
And they either cut them long ways or they cut them across.
The thing is, it's a whole pineapple upside down. It means
whole pineapple upside down.
So it's got to be
Mercadona stopped selling them because it was just becoming a joke.
Doesn't work.
And Mercadona is a very, if you understand, they've got really extremely high religious connections. They're the shop that never opens on a Sunday. They're the shop that deals with. So they were just getting really embarrassed by what was going on. That's the power of people.
Is that right, Alf? I didn't know that. There was religious connections.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, huge.
Because closing on a Sunday doesn't necessarily has to be anything to do with
They're a huge religious...
So people can have a day off.
No, they're a family that's got huge religious connections with the Roman Catholics.
That's why I always wait in the office day.
I didn't know that.
Mercadona. Yes, Mercadona. By the way, it doesn't work if you walk around Dierzien with canned pineapple upside down. It doesn't work. I've found out several times. Alf, thanks. And they've kept me away from the root vegetable section. Thank you very much.
But
Alf.
you know, going back in history,
yes,
that the pineapple was
how have we got to here?
Was a very cherished import into the UK, which when you go around England and you go to old houses and old buildings, you see lots of pineapples, either ornamentation or whatever.
Yeah.
It was a
China pineapples.
And when they first were imported, if you were very rich, you would always have a fresh pineapple.
Really? What is that? Is that presumably from
that we're talking many hundreds of years.
Are we talking East India Company? Are we talking? Where are we talking from the Caribbean?
Where did they come from then?
Yes.
No idea.
Probably Madeira.
The China pineapples, by the way, were made in Stoke.
But no, they were a status symbol several hundred years ago.
Sorry, just run this by me. The China pineapples
were made in the potteries.
Of course they were. By way,
you should know, Giles. You come. Why don't you have the China pineapples?
I thought the Chinese pineapples were an indie band from the 80s. But anyway, thank you very much, Alf, for that one. You've thrown us a completely different spin. 952784000.
And that was me wanting to talk about the strategy of governments to move forward and to develop countries. And now you come out with pineapples and looking for love in Mercadona.
Looking for love in Mercadona. And don't forget the religious overtones and the Opus Dei checkout.
I didn't know that connection with the Catholic Church. I really didn't know. But
I was going to say something there for a minute, but I would forget. It looks like there might be a multiple.
By one family,
right?
Is it?
It is.
Group?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's very successful. I mean,
it's the second richest man in Spain.
After Zara.
After Zara.
Yeah.
The owner of Zara.
Not Princess.
Not Zara, my neighbour.
Yeah, they deserve their success. I think it's a great store. I mean, the prices, the value is so...
Yeah, but...
It's incredible.
There are also supermarkets, aren't they?
There's a but there, because just quickly, before we go to the break, we are now in mid-October. And do you know what that means? Apart from San Pedro Feria coming up.
It's going to rain and half term.
And then we start... Amancio Ortega, thank you, the owner of...
correct.
But then we start to get the Christmas music. And the Christmas music at Mercadona is perhaps proof that Satan walks the earth on small and pointy cloven hooves, because it is the worst. It's that jingly jangly one with small. I don't think they're children. I think they get those actors who sound like children for the commercials. They sound like they swallowed half a helium balloon before breakfast.
Say the staff at Mercadona are the one of the companies that looks after the staff better than any other. Than other companies. Put it that way. But I disagree with that, because they have to endure the Christmas music for a month and a half, and that's torture. I feel sorry for them.
I used to work back when I was 17. I worked in a bar in Rupert Street. just behind by the Blue Posts in Soho, if you may know that, down Coach and Horses.
Right.
In Soho. And we started playing the One Christmas CD, no such thing as playlists, we started playing that in mid-October. And doing Christmas menus from the end of October. And so by about the 3rd or 4th of December, we were absolutely sick to the back teeth of mince pies, Christmas music.
There's a rule that there should be no mention of Christmas until after Guy Fawkes Day, November the 5th. Once that's over, you've got Halloween, and you've got Guy Fawkes, and then it's Christmas. Halloween. But there's one marker which we have in the UK, and I saw it here yesterday in Guadalmina at the English store.
Go on.
It's the time that you see mince pies on display in which store group puts out the mince pies the first. I mean, they're already out in England, but they were out there. I actually photographed them and sent the photograph to a chum who's obsessed with the release date of mince pies because he can't wait. He's addicted.
We're getting there here because I saw Turon on display a couple of days ago.
No, that's just the Turon from last year. They couldn't get rid of, and they can't get rid of that. That Turon is the ultimate pass the parcel gift. You give it to somebody else, and you know, if in the event of a nuclear war, cockroaches and Turon will survive.
But they're being very original. I saw cheesecake Turon, which is a new one for me. I've never seen cheesecake Turon. I was so tempted to buy it.
That's another get.
Along with Turon in October.
Along with China pineapples, cheesecake Turon is yet another great name for an indie band. Back after this.
Talk Radio Europe.
Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe with Giles Brown.
952 78 4000. Sorry, Andreas, we were talking about bringing back Guy Fawkes a minute ago. Guido Fawkes, that was the name.
Yeah, you said
I was asked.
You were asked about
why they don't celebrate Bonfire Night, quote unquote, here in Spain, and I was explaining that Guy Fawkes, obviously, it's a British thing, it's an English thing. Excuse me, it is a British thing. But also because what happens afterwards, and obviously it's the persecution of the Catholics, so therefore it's not big in Spain for the same reason.
You said we don't have in Spain Bonfire Night, and I was correcting you to say we do have Bonfire Night, but it is on the 24th of June. That's celebrating San Juan.
But that's
celebrating the equinox. But it's moved to the 24th to make it a Christian celebration.
It's certainly not celebrating
and there is a bonfire night.
Okay, Alf will be happy that Guy Fawkes is not coming back to sort out the current government.
I don't know, he could be quite good. I mean, and I think...
You know, because there was some talk that he was seen as a new enactment lurking around the streets of the Parliament Square.
Okay, here's some more bits and pieces coming in. Anyway, the bonfire. Anyway, let's leave the bonfires out. Hi, Giles. We had that phobia of Christmas music in our shop. We were willing to kill any Santa in the shopping centre. It was mayhem if we saw one around. Thanks for that. Yes, okay. Brings a whole new meaning to Santa and his sleigh, S-L-A-Y. Thank you very much. Meanwhile, Easter egg, that's nothing. Christmas nonsense from August in London. Easter eggs in January. Que más? That's... Juan Roig is not number 2. Presumably Juan Roig is the head of Mercadona.
Yeah, Roch. Yeah, you pronounced it.
Okay. I bow
is he not number 2? Oh,
apparently not.
This is how much I follow the rich list in Spain.
Exactly. Something else there. Right, fine. So... the name's cleverly. First name James, second name not so. Okay, because that's obviously referring to the Conservatives. Right, we've got 4 minutes before we have to hand over, before we go trippingly to Stephen Ritson. Andreas, you want to say something?
I just wanted to mention, there was a very interesting article yesterday that I read about the poll predictions in the United States, seeing that we have the election... presidential election soon, and it was quite interesting to see that the blunders of the pollsters. They had a really big one with Dewey and Truman. I think it was 1948, and the other big one was Carter and Reagan in 1980. So the question to Rex is: are we going to see a big surprise in the presidential election in the United States?
Right, that sums up. All right.
I mean, I just fear.
Do you fear?
I fear for the world. I fear for America. There's nothing to look forward to in their presidential election. I'm really sorry.
It could have been worse. I mean, it could have been Biden, for goodness sake. At which point, exactly.
Bless him.
Bless him.
He's done his time. But I don't know. It's a prediction. I think is nigh impossible at the moment. Who's going to?
It's too close.
And the problem is which will be the better.
But something normally happens in October. Traditionally, something happens that. I mean, we've had yet another assassin. I think that people might say, if you were a conspiracy theorist, that Trump is now paying people to try and assassinate him. Because if you look at the way that these people can be popping up out of the woodwork, there's a third one. Somebody was stopped with weapons and arms the other day outside a Trump rally. But you would think that most people at a Trump rally, the sort of people would have weapons and arms. So.
Am I right to say that the suspect was released hours later from police custody?
Because it's just a guy outside the Trump rally with weapons and guns, so they're full. Just quickly,
set up? No, do you think it could be a setup?
Let's not even go there down that rabbit hole, because we've only got 2 minutes and I want to play out with something. How dare? The question is, why so close? Yeah, I know. Meanwhile, we're going to leave you before I leave you on this particular piece that I've selected. Early 2000s, Super Soul supermarkets. We've gone off on a rare tangent here. The Super Soul supermarket in Chiclana, Costa de la Luz, your favourite place, one of your favourite places in the world.
Tarifa?
Yeah, further down than that, right?
Okay.
Beautiful place in the world. Large beaches. A 20-minute distorted warbling cassette tape of Feliz Navidad mega mix on a continual loop. And on the other side, the same thing, but obviously backwards. The poor staff. So there you go. We're almost out of time. It has been my pleasure and my privilege to bring you today's Viewpoint with Andrés Gallardo.
It's been a pleasure today having Rex sitting next to me.
And indeed, and not down the line, but in front of us, the woke-finding Joe.
May I thank you for your tolerance and for inviting me back to be live with you, and I look forward to joining you from the Bateau in London, sometimes whenever. And, of course, being back on the wonderful Costa del Sol.
Thank you very much.
Lovely place.
We're playing out with this because I think it's only fair. The new Rex Leyland tune. We'll be back with Viewpoints next week. Stephen Ritson is up next.
Expressed on Viewpoint by invited studio guests and callers do not constitute an opinion endorsed in any way by Talk Radio Europe.
You've been listening to a TRE production. If you've enjoyed this program, there'll be another episode waiting for you next week, right here on this platform, where you can also access our extensive back catalogue of shows and interviews. For more information on our live programming, social media channels and apps, and how to contact Talk Radio Europe, please visit tre.radio.